I'm Eugene Capon, this is Capon Design, and I would like to bring you a tutorial today. Earlier this week I released a video called 80s Retro Intro Motion Graphic, and it looked a little something like this. Now it has kind of this retro 80s vibe, which I really wanted to bring out, but I also wanted to use a couple of key effects. The first one being the stroke tool. It's something that not a lot of people use very often, but it's a very powerful tool. If you're trying to make like vines grow on walls, or you're trying to make text look like it's being written, this is a great tool. Now I'm going to go through the entire explanation of how I made this, and you can follow along. I did use a couple of bought third-party plugins from Video Copilot, Optical Flares and 3D Element. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to archive all the old stuff because we're going to start from scratch. Let's get this out of here. And the first thing I want to do is create a brand new composition. I want it to be 6 seconds. I want it to be 1080 by 1920, square pixels, blah blah blah, 30 frames a second, and hit OK. Now the first thing we need to do is let's set up a background. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid, Black. And I'm going to... My computer is thinking. And the next thing I'm going to do is grab Video Copilot, and I'm going to grab Optical Flares. I'm just going to grab and drop it on there. Now, what we have here is a 2-point tracking system, which controls all the lighting for the tool. But to edit it, we want to go back to Effects, we want to hit the Options button, and this whole piece and this whole user interface is going to load up. From there, I'm going to pick my motion graphics. I think I'm going to pick Golden Sun. Golden Sun is going to be my one. Alright, I'm going to hit OK. But you know what? This doesn't really look like the way I had it earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the coloring. And you can do this by over here under the color, you can just pick something more retro. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to name it Color Light Magenta, and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to change the second one to, instead of magenta, it will be blue. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to choose a brand new color. I'm going to choose a kind of sky blue. And then I'm going to change the point for it to the other side. Now, right now you can't see the other layer behind it, simply because we haven't set the layers to screen. It'll basically remove the background. Now, this looks a little too dark for me, so I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to add a filling vignette. So, Layer, New, Solid, and I'm going to pick kind of a dark purple to go over it. I'm actually going to move it to the back, and I'm going to put a mask over it to make a vignette. So I'm going to take this round tool, the ellipse tool, and get good in there. So it almost touches all the sides. I'm going to take the mask, I'm going to turn it to subtract, and then I'm going to feather the mask to a ridiculous amount. And then I'm going to take the transform and turn it down just a little. Okay, and now we have this awesome kind of retro feeling background. Kind of reminds me of like an 80s music video, except less smoke. So the next thing we want to do is start to build our pieces for the actual animation. So before I forget, let's take these lights and make them flicker. So I'm going to choose the blue. I'm going to go over to flicker. I'm going to set the speed to 30 and the amount to 25. And then I'm going to grab the other one, magenta, go to flicker, and I'm going to set it to 25, and then I'm going to set the amount to 30. Just so there's a little bit of variation and the flickering doesn't happen in sync. It'll be a little bit off. It'll make it feel organic. Anyway, the next thing we need to do is get a brand new layer. Get a solid. It's going to be black. And I am going to make a shape out of it. Now, if you have Illustrator, if you have like the Adobe Creative Suite or CS6 or CS5, you have just a full package of tools. Well, anyway, in Illustrator, you can make different shapes, and one of the stock shapes that it comes with is the polygon tool. Well, anyway, I made this polygon, I flipped it onto its side, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to hit Curl C, and I'm going to go back to After Effects, and I'm going to hit Curl V. And it's going to paste the shape, making that polygon. So anyway, now that we have a shape, I'm just going to hide it. I'm going to go back to our solids, where we've had multiple layers made. Over here on the left, I'm going to grab another black. I'm going to go back to effects. And this time I'm going to grab element and just drag it on there. And what this will do is it'll turn it into a 3D. Basically, what Element does, it takes 3D models, or it takes two-dimensional models, and makes them 3D by extruding them. And that's exactly what we're doing here now. We're taking this layer, which we've created this shape, and we're using another layer to reference it and to extrude it to make it a 3D object. And we can do this by going over to the, by going over to the effects or the elements. We can go to custom layers, custom text and effects, and then we can select shape. And now we can go to Sync and Setup. Now all we have to do is hit Extrude. All we have to do is hit Extrude, and it'll take that layer and turn it into a 3D object. Now, when you get this software, it comes with a couple of presets. The one that we're going to use for this is Shiny Light. And I'm going to change it up just a little, make it harder, more solid, if you will. And now we have our first three-dimensional object. And now what we need to do is, well, first of all, I want to take this layer, I want to name it. So 3D shape. Now we're going to animate it. And it will be tied to a specific grouping. You can see all of your groups on the right hand side under effects and controls. So I'm going to go down to group 1, particle replicator, and there are only two things we need to do. One, we need to put in a keyframe for the position Z. And I'm going to put in a keyframe at 0, and then I'm going to move up to about a second 15 and put another keyframe. Now I'm going to position it where I want it, which is a little bit here. I'm also going to put it in position. I'm going to make it a little off-center because I know that the finished product will actually be coming off of this shape. So when the text goes on, the text will be centered, but the shape won't. So anyway, I'm going to go back to that first position, click on the keyframe, and then I'm going to move it way up. And I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to do one more thing. What this shape really needs is rotation. So within so I'm going to hit the Y rotation. I'm going to put a 1 on it, and then I'm going to make a keyframe. I'm going to go to the 1 second 15 mark, and I'm going to move it, ultimately giving this shape movement, both in the Z-axis and the rotation on its Y-axis. But with just 2 points, it's going to be very robotic. It's not going to look very organic. It's just going to come to like a screeching halt. And to take this keyframe and make sure that it slows down as it reaches its, final position, I'm going to select all 3 of these keyframes and I'm going to hit F9. Next up, we have text. And really, for anybody who doesn't have these third-party plugins, this is going to be very beneficial to you. Like I said, this stroke tool is useful for a whole bunch of things. It'll help with different reveals on patterns. It'll help with, say you're trying to make it look like somebody's writing something out in the real world, and this will help create that illusion. So the first thing I want to do, and really it's up to you on what font you use. I'm going to put CD. Sorry, I'm just taking a second to adjust everything. And I'm going to make this white. Okay. And now I'm going to make a second set of text using my text tool, and I'm going to put TV, and I'm going to use the font Notepad. And this really will make it look more written, more edgy, kind of have that 80s feel that we're going for. So anyway, I'm going to recolor it, and if you are interested, I'm using FF24F0 as the color, and it gives this magenta feel to it. Oh, it didn't take. Let's do it one more time. Yeah, I don't know. That's looking pretty sweet. I'm gonna size this down just a little. And bring this TV on. I'm gonna make it a little bit closer. Okay, so now we have our text in place. Let's sit down and let's animate this. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to grab this CD layer. I'm going to zoom in on it. So I can see OBS. And I'm going to take my pen tool. and I'm going to mark out on it all in one motion. Now I'm going to use this tool called Stroke, which comes stock, so there's no extra plugin or anything you need to buy to do this. Just drop it on your text layer or your shape or whatever else you're using, and this is the cool thing. So this will help you animate a reveal. So whatever this stroke is following on your mask will suddenly be applicable. In effects, under stroke, you can control the brush hardness. I'm going to move it up to 100%. I'm going to change the brush stroke to something else so I can see what is going on. And then I'm going to up the brush stroke. And now that the stroke is visible, I'm going to kind of realign it so it's in the center of everything. Now, it does take a little bit of finesse to get between the stroke size, so it covers only what you know is going to be showing sequentially. And it does take a little bit. So anyway, when you want to test it to make sure that it's going to act correctly, you can go to Reveal on Image, or Reveal on Original Image, and you can move your end all the way over. So as it comes through, it will look like it's stroking out, and you can adjust a little. So anyway, it does come in. It is going to come in very fast. So any little mistakes, like it might be actually covered up. So what I'm going to do is click about a second in. I'm going to hit the add a keyframe for N, go back to the very beginning, and I'm going to move the percentage to 0. So as the timeline goes by, it will be animated in. Now I'm going to have to do it again for the second font we have, the TV. Making stuff for the YouTubes. Cool. All right, anyway, so now that we have our mask on there, is what it's really following the mask. So I'm going to take the stroke tool, pop it back on there. My computer's acting up a little bit because we're doing OBS and a bunch of other stuff running in the background. Oh, Adobe, do not fail me. Don't fail me, Adobe. Man, it is. Just save. Just save really quickly. So my cheeks hurt a lot. I was shaving right before, and I managed to cut on both sides of my cheek, right where the cheekbone meets my neck. So I'm just thinking right now I have really sharp cheekbones. Anyway, so now that we have this available, let's take stroke, throw it on here. Super cool. We're going to go down to effects, go down to stroke, do all the same steps we had before where we turn up the brush, up the hardness, And, you know, again, we're probably going to need some adjustments, which is perfectly fine. And we're going to do the reveal once again, where we put in a keyframe at 100%, move it down to 0, put it to 0, and then change from on original image to reveal original image, which means we now have this animated text. I'm going to offset it from the CD so it makes it look like it comes in right after the other, and I'm going to do it by at the 1 second mark. I'm going to move it to. And then I'm going to move both pieces of text all the way out till where our shape is done animating. Or at least close to it. Okay. So fun. Alright. Now, it does look very flat. It doesn't look finished, and I'm going to talk about how to make this look like a finished product. And I used a technique that takes the color components, or the red, green, and blue, and breaks it up just a little, and it'll help create that vintage 80s look. And by doing this, I'm going to take our comp and name it animation, and I'm going to get a brand new comp, and it'll have the exact same dimensions and settings that we had for the first composition. And then I'm going to take animation, I'm just going to drop it in, and I'm going to duplicate it 1, 2, 3. Or I'm going to make 3 duplications. Now I'm going to call the 3 layers blue, green, red in that order. So the first one's going to be blue. The second one I'm going to name green. And the third one is just going to be red. Now I'm going to go over to effects, and so you can see what I'm doing. Effects. I am going to be looking for channel mixer. And I'm going to be dropping it on all 3 of these compositions, and you'll see why in a second. So the first thing I want to do with animation blue is I want to take red, I'll move it to 0, I'm going to move green, move it to 0. That way it just leaves all the blue in the sequence. See? It's just blue now. I'm going to go to green, I'm going to grab its channel mixer, and I'm going to take the blue, turn it to 0. And I'm going to take the red, turn it to 0, leaving only the green. And by now you can guess I'm going to be doing the red and moving it all in that manner. Now, alone, you know, they're just individual colors. But if you offset or turn or put an add to the top 2 layers, when you throw channel mixer on each one of your 3 layers, and mark them green, blue, and red, you'll go into the channel mixer, and whatever you named it, you'll remove the other 2 channels, essentially. And when you lay them back over, the first 2 with add, it'll create the original full color spectrum composition. Now, if you take your green layer and move it 2 spaces off to the right, and you take your blue 2 spaces off to the left, you're left with this retro feeling. Look, it has that weird color distortion, which gives it that 80s feel. Next, I'm going to grab a camera. We're perfectly fine with that. Camera. And tune up camera, 35mm, blah blah blah. Everything looks good. 35mm focal length. And using the camera, we are going to zoom in. So we'll go down to transform. We're going to go all the way over to position at frame 1. Add a keyframe, and then go all the way to the end and add another keyframe. Now I'm going to grab the Z-axis and move it up. So now as the video progresses all the way through, we'll have the flickering lights, we'll have animated text, we'll have 3D objects, and I don't know how long this is. Probably. And so, you know, you can make all of this in under like 30 minutes. I mean, that's what I did. I've been doing this for a while, but now you can, and I just handed you everything you need to do to make this. Anyway, this has been Capon Design TV. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you like watching cool motion graphics pieces, hit the subscribe button, especially if you've seen more than one of these. We're now in a relationship. Time to make it official. If you have something positive to say about the video, leave a comment down below. If you have something negative to say, leave a negative comment down below. And I'm sure myself or somebody else from the community will be more than happy to fight you on whatever your beef is. If you learned something new by watching this video, let me know by hitting the like button. Really, it helps me out. It helps the show out, and you know, allows me to kind of gauge what everybody wants to learn and what I can teach you. And if you have questions, ask them. I'm here for you. Let's make this a back and forth relationship. Anyway, I'm Eugene. This has been Capon Design TV. I will see you next time.